Welcome back to Fundamentals of Action Research at Belhaven University as part of our Doctor of Education program. In this session, we are going to discuss developing the action research prospectus. So you can use the term prospectus interchangeably with action research plan. This is the plan for your action research project, and all of you, if you're watching this session, are going to have to complete a prospectus. It's a requirement for conducting the action research project and for degree completion. So the objective for this session is to create a draft. You're going to receive feedback on it of the action research project prospectus. You will get feedback from both your Belhaven faculty advisor, potentially members of our doctoral studies team, and then your site supervisor in your partner school district. So let's look at the components. This will be very brief, but just an overview of what the components of the prospectus are. So you'll have the end in mind as you're putting together this draft. So that you're going to have a title, of course. You're going to have an overview of the research topic. What are we looking at? What is the issue or the problem that is being investigated? You're going to provide background of the study. So this is where you're going to be providing information about the district, the school, the setting, what is going on there. You're also going to provide some information found in current literature and trends that are relevant to that topic. Is this a problem in a particular geographic region? Is this isolated to a particular community? Is this a statewide problem? Is it regional in the U.S., or is it a national issue? So part of that background information will be to explain the context. You want to tell us in writing about the school, the setting, the community, the stakeholders, all of the components involved in the context. And you also want to give us some insight about the framework or conceptual models that are relevant to your study. What lens are you connecting this to? This will come from your reading of the literature, but it's also going to come from the use of the AI tool. Earlier, we discussed this in a previous session where you've asked what relevant theoretical or conceptual frameworks or conceptual models align with your topic. So this should be directly related to your topic. You're also going to include a robust review of the literature. We need to know what the current literature, recent and relevant, says about your topic. So there's going to be citations, a lot of paraphrasing, but you're going to present what are the trends in the literature right now relevant to your topic. So a review of literature is going to be required. Your prospectus is also going to clearly articulate what the problem is, what is the issue of your study. And your purpose is really just a restatement of your problem. Your purpose is going to be to develop an action plan or strategy to address the problem that you present. And then you're going to present research questions. And again, these are the constructs of your study. This is what you're measuring. What do we need to know? What do you need to discover or explore in the setting, in the context of your study, to address that problem? So you're going to develop some research questions. These are fundamental. They will guide the entire approach to your data collection and analysis. And to that end, once you have research questions, you'll develop and you'll choose a research approach and a design. So I want you to think about the approach in general terms, as in qualitative, quantitative, or mixed data. And then your design will be the particular or the specific methodological design you're going to use to fulfill that approach. And so if you have a qualitative approach, you may end up with a case study design. You might end up having a narrative component. You might do focus groups or observations. Design is going to be more relevant or specific to the actual type of data collection. Approach is to the general type or category of data collection that you are pursuing. And you're going to include in this prospectus very detailed research procedures. This is going to be required for IRB, institutional and partner district approval for you to actually collect data. You're going to have to, in explicit detail, explain the procedures involved in your data collection. And those details will include information about the population in the sample. Will also include your sampling procedure. How are you going to identify and select participants to participate in your study? Do you have instrumentation? Is there a questionnaire instrument you plan on using? Is there a survey component? Do you have an interview protocol if you're going to interview people? Do you have a focus group guide? Do you have an observation checklist that you have? So whatever instrumentation you're going to use that's going to help facilitate and guide your data collection, you'll need to write about that. You will also discuss any variables that are being measured or compared or being evaluated. And where validity and reliability are relevant to your study, you will discuss these. So if the data you are using, if you're using archival or secondary data, performance indicators that have already been collected, how do we know they're reliable? How do we know they're valid? Okay. Or if you're using an instrument to measure something, you'll need to summarize the information that's provided about its validity and reliability and how it's been used in other settings. You're going to need to provide detailed information about the data collection and analysis. So this is a preliminary discussion of the data collection and analysis because you will have a plan for what you're going to do for data collection and analysis. But again, remember, action research involves just that continual evaluation or reflection. And if you need to make tweaks along the way, that's fine. But you will need to initially tell what are your plans for data collection and how do you intend, once those data are collected, how do you intend to analyze them? You all will be required, this is going to be a Bellhaven Doctoral Studies requirement, to include a construct matrix. And this is where you list your research questions and those metrics that you're trying to measure. What are we looking at? You're going to have to connect them back to your theoretical framework, the components of your theoretical framework or conceptual model. And we will provide a template for that construct matrix for you. Essential to your prospectus is going to be a definition of key terms. Every one of you, regardless of what your problem is or the issue being investigated, are going to have terms that are used frequently throughout your review of the literature, in your background information, in describing key components of the context of your study. So you're going to need to provide a definition of what those things are. You always need to assume that the reader is ignorant. Just make the assumption they don't know, and you need to provide clarity. You'll be required to do this in your prospectus. Tell us what those key terms are and what they mean in relationship to your study. And of course, you're going to have references that are beautifully cited using APA. And you'll have any appendices if applicable. For example, if you have a validated questionnaire instrument that is used for survey purposes, that's been used over and over again, and it fits, it helps you measure your constructs, and you get approval to use it, you'll provide a copy of it in any appendices to your prospectus. And that is going to finish this session. So be sure, if you would, to complete those reading assignments, writing assignments, and participate in the session discussion questions in Canvas.